I had done a show years ago where there was no reference in the script whatsoever to my race, whatsoever. Yeah. But I was the only black person in the show, and the show was set in like the 30s.
Yeah.
So the director then instructed everyone in the show to respond to me because I was black. Like, oh my gosh, there's a black guy walking in here. Mm-hmm. So that's not going to the audience. The audience doesn't get that. It's not actually noted in any of the scripts. None of the lines are saying that. But as I'm walking around the stage, I have people go, it just comes off as I'm in a world of my own now. Mm-hmm. I felt lonely at the rehearsals. I felt ostracized from the cast altogether anyway, and it was completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
And these are things that director didn't, they weren't saying, I'm gonna get at him and I don't like black people. They weren't saying that, but they didn't realize what they were doing either.
Right.
And these are the things that we need to.
I mean, I was in that show with you, and I think the director, the thought was, oh, this is a true depiction of how people were treated in the 30s, people of color. It's like, but that's not the story we're telling.
Exactly.
That's not, it doesn't have, why does that have to be a factor, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Why do we have to see my race, but we don't have to see anyone else's?
Right.
I'm on this stage, we have to see that you're black. Everyone else gets to be their character. Mm-hmm. That part's that's not so necessary. Yeah. I can be the character as well. Honestly, I'm gonna toot my own horn. I'm a pretty damn good actor. Right. I can be that character. So I can. So I don't feel the need to always have to be the black guy in the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always am, no matter what my character. I'm the black guy in the show. And that part wears on you sometimes. You know?
Absolutely, it does. And then people don't understand why black actors are so upset. Like they don't understand it. And I guess that does kind of come from like a cultural background thing. I think sometimes it does. I don't think that's always the case, but I feel like in some instances there is I don't know what that's like, right? But there's one thing to not know it's like this idea of like empathizing versus sympathizing. You know what I mean? It's like, and I always get the two confused, so please correct me if I get them wrong. But it's like sympathizing is understanding the fact that you go through that, and that's not fair, and that's not okay. And empathizing is actually living through that. And you can still do both. And that kind of goes back to what you guys were saying about what you were saying, actually, about like, this should frustrate not just black actors, but actors in general. Yep. Because actors look out for actors. We are theater people. Like, we are a community. We want to look out for each other. So we should, even if these are issues that don't exactly affect us.
But just to that point, I mean, if you're someone that like respects the process, right? Mm-hmm. I can't understand why you wouldn't cast the best person in the role, or use the best designer for that, or and it boggles my mind. I was talking to Ayana about it. Like, I went to Temple University and I like learned a lot about black culture there, and I like what a gift it was for me. And it was sort of like, I didn't know that like this stuff was still happening, and I think it's horrible that you're still being asked to play the servant, right? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, what director would not want to cast the best actor in the role? Period.
Yeah. It just makes your job as a director easier. Right. Honestly, Yeah. Like, doesn't make any sense to not do that. Right? Why not?
Sorry. And that's why I'm really glad we're having this conversation, because I don't think that a lot of people even realize that they're doing those things. I think they're so ingrained in their heads that this character is white and this character is black that they don't think, oh, I'm not casting the best guy for the role. He doesn't fit the role. Now, they don't realize that he does fit the role. He's an actor. She's an actor.
To your point, there's no reason Seymour couldn't be any color, right?
Yeah.
But knowing that it's like not very, done very often, it's very disheartening to go into auditions and stuff knowing that there's not really any black characters, because right in the back of your head, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but like in the back of your head, you go in thinking like, well, I want the lead, but if they're not a black person, like, what am I supposed to do? I'm going to get buried in the ensemble or something again, and that's just not a good way to go into a show. And I mean, that's pretty much, been my experience, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's interesting because without the mindset, without the education that you are supposed to get to be able to stretch yourself and think outside of the box and stretch and see, okay, let me try this dramatic role. Let me be funny. Let me be, someone who's an introvert. Let me be an extrovert. That's where you're supposed to, at school is where you're supposed to learn how to do that. Yeah. You don't get the chance to do that, then you don't know how to lead a show. You don't know how to stand up for yourself, and you just kind of disappear. There has to be a certain level of confidence as you're standing in front of people auditioning going, all right, I'm your person. I didn't even have that after being on tour with national tours and regional theater. I did not have the confidence to stand up and say, I'm going for the lead. I wanted the sassy best friend. That's where I thought I belonged. Even after that, because all the education I had didn't teach me that I was more than just a black actress, you know? So it's disheartening where your education system fails you. They're not doing what they're supposed to do if they don't let you stretch then. They were like, you know, you don't want to be typecast. So it's in college and in high school even, if you get the chance to be a part of a theater community, a theater program, that's when you're supposed to be allowed to do those things. Before the world gets a hold of you and says, this is what box you fit in, you're supposed to be armed to say, no, I know that I can do this. I know that I can do this too. So that's supposed to prepare you for the world. But I don't think it's doing that right now, because the arts is not what it should be in schools at all.
We grew up in a different age anyway. I grew up in the 90s, and even then, the roles that were available on television and in movies were different than they are today. We have seen black actors win more awards, be featured in more prominent roles, be featured as the love interest and other things like that. That's my whole thing, is I feel like I watched all those things change in my own lifetime. And I'm not that old, but in my own lifetime, I watched those things change. But I'm still, that's baby skin, But I still feel like, again, on this level, on the level that we do it at, it isn't going there yet. Yeah. And maybe it will in the future, but that's what we're here for now. We're trying to make that change now. I want to be able to do those roles that I saw as a kid growing up and saying, look at this changing and look at that changing and look at the fact that now black actors are everywhere. Now there's not a need for a black entertainment television because black actors are on different channels and in different movies and stuff like that. That's what I want as well. I don't want to be in theater where we're doing only Dreamgirls or only a black show. I don't want that either. I want it to be to a point where it's not a thought. I'm going in that audition because I like this role, and the person casting is like, I like that guy, not because of his race, not because of how he looks, but because of the performance that he just gave, or she just gave. I keep sticking with the male, and I apologize. But
I think it's so cool, actually, because I'm watching, thinking of media and how it's evolved over the years. Star Trek, actually. So like so I'm watching the brand new Star Trek Discovery. And I think it's so cool how you see how diverse that cast is compared all the way to like the first one. So like, obviously if you're not a Star Trek person, you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But it's right, like, but it's just so cool because originally, so like basically cutting to the chase here, it's like the original Star Trek cast, from what I remember, is like all white people, and maybe there was like one Asian guy. Right. And then one on. Right, exactly. There was one. Right, exactly. And now with Star Trek Discovery,
we know our black ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And George Takei is Asian.
Right.
I mean, but the thing that's crazy is I think that was actually probably a very diverse cast for the time.
Absolutely.
Right? So you've got
groundbreaking.
Yeah,
which is
history.
Two people of color on that.
Yeah.
Actually, didn't they have the first like interracial relationship or something on television on that?
The first kiss, right? Because it was Shatner and
That's right.
Uhura, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyway,
then this is all like really great stuff, and I guess that just kind of proves even more the testament of how Star Trek kind of has really broken ground in terms of that. But now it's like more than half the cast are just people of color. In fact, the lead is a black woman. But I think what I love the most about it is that they never make it about race.
Right.
Yes.
Ever.
Yes.
She's the lead, and not once does it ever come up that she's black. And you just go through the same Star Trek-y adventures that you've been going through, and you just see all these people of color, and it never gets brought up. Race never gets brought up, unless it's like obviously like aliens versus humans. Like that's the only time it really comes up. But it's just so comforting to see, like as a person of color, to see that and it not be an issue. So I think that is a really great representation of the evolution or the potential evolution of media, of film, of television, to where you can get that, because it's already happening. And I think that's so cool. And hopefully you take that idea and it really starts to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.